Don't become a doormat. That's not what being a light worker is about. That's not what being awakened or enlightened is not about being a doormat for the world. You have to take care of yourself first. I recently put out several months ago a meme that talked about if the pitcher is not full, it has no water to pour. Same thing goes for you. You've got to fill yourself. Take care of you first. Self care. Fill the pitcher. When the pitcher is full, it'll have lots of water uh, for those that are thirsty around you.
Revolution Radio proudly presents, live from the heart of the Blue Ridge, Roanoke, Virginia. It's the Just Bernard Show with host Bernard Alvarez. Join Bernard as he shares topics that reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience, including world liberty, the esoteric, suppressed technologies, spiritual ascension, and human consciousness. Humanity has awakened, and our time has come to realize our full potential. And now, live from the Star City, your host, Bernard Alvarez.
Today is a Q&A, and I've got a list of questions here that you all have sent me. I do my best to answer them. For those of you that do write me and do ask me questions, I try to let you know that I will be answering them live over the air. This is my way of getting back to those that want, personal attention, for lack of a better term. Of course, I do private one-on-one sessions, but some people can't afford them. And quite honestly, I just don't have the time to answer everyone's questions, especially writing it down. It's a lot easier for me to talk to you and to answer your questions like I'm talking to you live. So this is what I do. I decided it's best for me to save up the questions throughout the month, and then that way I can explain. You know, a lot of things get lost in text. I always have this thing of, if it's going to be more than a one-sentence answer, I'd rather somebody call me, or I'd rather call them, because a lot of things get lost either in tone. I mean, how many Facebook fights have you gotten over because somebody read something with the wrong mentality? So I prefer to speak live. And again, you know, not everybody can afford to make a session. Plus, I really have been really booked up lately. As a matter of fact, I don't have any sessions available until late next week right now. But yes, I am very busy, and this is my way of trying to stay connected and be able to connect with you all one-on-one. So, like I said, I've saved a lot of these questions, and you know, I just want to point out something. And this is not me complaining. Maybe it is me complaining. I've had people like get really mean and angry and ugly over me not getting back to them personally. And you know, I kind of like, I understand that we're all going through stuff, and a lot of us are going through a lot of stuff these days. I mean, between what's happening on the media, which, please, people, step away from the TV, turn off the radio unless you're listening to Revolution Radio. But if it isn't making you good, turn it. If it ain't making you feel good, you need to turn it off and walk away from that. But it just seems crazy that, you know, people that are, I don't know, just weird stuff is happening. I've been getting a lot of weird, like, hate mail. So I just wanted to bring that up. And, you know, we're trying to do our best. I'm trying to do my best. And I hope that the work that I'm doing with Triva and with so many other organizations that I work with is hopefully creating some type of a ripple effect to help elevate the consciousness of this planet in some small way. But anyway, so let's go ahead and get started. And let me see who we have, who's on the chat, who's on the player. Let me refresh here. Oh, great. Now I'm getting an error message from Facebook. Okay, here it comes. I want to be able to read your questions live. Anyway, so for those of you, while I'm waiting for my page to reload, please be aware that Triva is keeping an eye on the chat rooms, and she will make sure that I get your question during today's live broadcast. So, hello, Anna. Hello, Lena. I hope that's spelled correctly. I'm saying that correctly. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. Hello, Raul. Good to see you. Well, let's start with the first question. So let's just dive right in here. Uh, Maybe I shouldn't dive right into that one. That one's a tough one. And someone writes, how do I learn to trust my intuition? Hmm. Isn't that the case, though? Isn't it like the most difficult thing to do when you're first developing a relationship with your higher self, when you're going through this spiritual awakening and your path to enlightenment? It's having that trust in your gut. How do we learn to trust our gut? To simplify it, and I know, and I'm sure you all have been through the same situation where your intuition is nudging you, nagging you, nipping at your ankles, and just keeps telling you, go this way, do this, or don't do this, don't go that way. And we don't listen. And what happens? Usually something that we don't like, usually something that kind of becomes an obstacle in our life. We can open a whole big can of worms, or it might just be a temporary setback. But the reality is that if we are not, our intuition is a sixth sense, well, not for lack of a better term, it is a sixth sense. And it's important for us to learn to trust it. So the question is, how do I trust my intuition? How do we learn to trust our intuition? For me, it's learning that whether or not I'm being proactive or am I being reactive. And what happens is in the beginning that you might be being reactive. You might be reacting to an external influence versus an internal intuitive dialogue. But you will learn the difference. As long as your intuition or your reflexive nature or reactive nature isn't harming someone, go for it. You will learn to tell the difference whether you're reacting to something emotional or if you're reacting or being proactive with your intuition. In other words, you're gonna have to trip a few times and until you figure out what is your intuition and what is your emotional reaction. Sometimes our emotional body is nudging us, is pushing us in a particular direction. But I will say, I'm kind of rambling here because it's just a matter of experience. I mean, how do I learn to trust my intuition? Learning to trust your intuition is really hit or miss in the beginning, and it's trusting and knowing that, for example, I work with a lot of students and I have a lot of clients that I work with, and that seems to be the number one thing that people complain about, that they don't know how to trust their intuition, and they're afraid that it's their ego. Don't worry about that. Sometimes your intuition needs to speak to you through your ego. Sometimes your intuition needs to speak to you through your emotional body. So do not worry if it's your ego. Again, harm none, do what you will. If it's not telling you to go out there and, hurt people or hurt yourself, by all means, act on it. Listen to it. Your gut is talking to you for a reason. It's going to be okay. And it's a matter of, how shall we say, it's a matter of getting used to your intuition being right. Once you have it happen to you a couple hundred times, which it will happen to you a couple hundred times, you'll learn that you can trust your ego and you can trust to listen to your intuition. I didn't mean your ego, I meant your intuition. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move on from this. And I've answered that question several times actually in the past. And what I would like to recommend is I do have a course available on how to communicate with your higher self and with your spirit guides. Take that course. It's about a 2.5 hour long course. I have the structured version, like a classroom type version, or I have it like a workshop where you can just watch it and work your way through it and just pause it. It is available for all of my patrons for, I think it's $5 or more a month. If you become a patron for $5 or more a month, that particular workshop is available to you completely free. And it's like a 2.5 hour long workshop. Take that. And actually I have little pieces of it on my website of how to develop a relationship with your higher self and whatnot. You can find all that kind of stuff there. But it is a process. And again, it's just a matter of getting used to the characteristics of your intuition and the characteristics of your higher self. Okay, so very, very good question, and I'm leaving the names out because I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but or embarrass anybody. But somebody wrote, "How can I stop being taken advantage of?" That seems to be an issue for those of us who have chosen or have been called to the path of the light worker. We want to please everybody. A lot of us are people pleasers, where hopefully we have a lot of innate diplomacy within us. But in that innate diplomacy and people pleasing, we get too attached to becoming the nurturer. And the nurturer is always giving, 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 and not always receiving. I basically went through this for the first 20 years of this work, quite honestly. It wasn't until recently that I said, enough is enough. I need to take care of myself first. It took me time and a lot of very difficult life lessons to learn that I can learn to say no. I can learn to have boundaries and must take care of myself in order for me to be able to take care of other people and to do the work that I do, whether it be with local organizations or nonprofits around the world that I work with. But the same thing goes for you. It could be your friends. It could be your job. It could be your partner. It could be the Lightwork organization you work for. But learning to, in order to stop having people take advantage of you, you have to learn to use the word no. And I know that's very difficult for many people. And not doing it in a reactive way, because we don't want to be mean, of course. We don't want to be mean. We want to be helpful. We want to let people know that we're available to them. But saying no within you, saying no, I don't need to give my energy to this right now. I need to take care of this first. When we feel taken advantage of, we become, well, we get angry. We turn toward, how shall we say, frustration from the people that we're around and the people that are asking too much of us. And that frustration gets turned inward. And when we become frustrated with ourselves, we get angry with ourselves, we get down on ourselves, and then the whole cycle just begins to repeat itself. So in order for us to not let ourselves get taken advantage of, we just need to learn to say no internally, in your mind's eye. Saying, no, I am not going to give my attention to this. A great practice is a Facebook fight. Say, no, I'm not going to pay attention to this. Don't give it your energy. But as well, apply it in your day-to-day life. If your children are asking too much of you, if your family's asking too much of you, if your job is asking too much of you, be polite, but from within say, no, I don't need to give my attention to this. The only way to stop being taken advantage of is learning to say no within and politely saying no without, but letting people know that you are available there when you are available. Don't become a doormat. That's not what being a light worker is about. That's not what being awakened or enlightened is not about, being a doormat for the world. You have to take care of yourself first. I recently put out several months ago a meme that talked about if the pitcher is not full, it has no water to pour. Same thing goes for you. You've got to fill yourself. Take care of you first. Self-care. Fill the pitcher. When the pitcher is full, it'll have lots of water for those that are thirsty around you. But again, learn to say no internally. Learn that it's okay to say no. No, I don't have to do that. No, I don't have to do that. I love this one. Somebody wrote me about twin flames. Very interesting. What's my opinion about twin flames? I believe in them. I don't believe in them. What is your opinion on twin flames? I mean, first of all, what is the definition of a twin flame? Perhaps my definition is different from what another person is. A lot of people feel that the idea of a twin flame is, light and fluffy, happy, two light beings that join as one and live happily ever after, and the dance of light between them, and they're been together, it's their destiny from another life into this life, into the next life. And I don't see twin flames like that. I see twin flames as everything from family to framly, which is what I was going to say. Family, friends, and lovers, and partners. And could be a lifelong husband or wife, or it could be a short-term husband or wife. I feel I've been lucky enough and blessed enough to have had relationship with at least two of my twin flames in this lifetime. But we finished the work we had to do, and now I'm free, and they've moved on, and I've moved on. But for me, the twin flame is kind of like a cosmic dance, a karmic dance, where we are joined together to fulfill a specific purpose, whether it be the growth of each other, whether it be the growth of coming together for work on the planet, for example, coming together to do a great project to, I don't know, bring water to deserts or whatever. I'm just trying to make up an example. But I don't look at twin flame as that whole romantic, pie-eyed, starry-eyed, love and light, and we're together forever and whatnot. I believe we are together forever, even though my last twin flame and I are no longer in each other's lives. I believe our souls will always be connected, and the ripple of the work that we did together will ripple out forever. So, yeah, twin flames for me are more like karmic destiny fulfilled. I don't know if that makes sense. It's silly to think that, we split, our souls split in half, and they have half my soul and I have half their soul. I think it's more two individual souls that recognize each other and do the dance of spirit and light with each other for a little while, whether it's a part of your lifetime, a whole lifetime, or several lifetimes. But I believe twin flames is more about recognition of the other soul versus destiny. Be careful of destiny. You're giving away your power if you believe in destiny. But yes, of course, there are karmic ripples. I can go on for a whole another 30 minutes about karmic ripples and destiny and free will, but I've already spoken about that many, many times before, so just go back to some other of my Q&As. Alrighty, so let's see, is there anything else that I want to check up on it? By the way, if you do have any questions, I am keeping an eye on the comments here, so by all means, please post your questions. I'll be happy to touch on them if I have a chance to. Alrighty. Moving on, a great question. What does awakening mean? I love this question because I get it all the time. I've answered it in different ways in the past. As a matter of fact, I think we just scheduled a post on what is enlightenment. It's not what you think it is. And awakening is just that. It's kind of awakening from a slumber. I had a great client yesterday, first-time client, who was telling me how they had been asleep. And I love the way we use the term asleep and awake all the time. But they had been asleep as to what their purpose is, and now they're starting to get a glimmer of it, etc., etc. Awakening can be on many different levels. You can't just think of it as spiritual awakening. Awakening could be awakening to the fact that you're in an abusive relationship. Awakening could be that you have particular gifts that you didn't realize that you had. You've awakened to them. So for me, awakening is literally, to define awakening, it's literally just a peeling away of the veil to get more clarity. When we peel away layers of the veil, we get a little bit more clarity, and we get a little bit more awakening. But remember, awakening isn't just one awakening. If you've only had one awakening, then you're not progressing. The awakening path is exactly that. It's a path that continues. There are more and more veils to be lifted before you. The Tao Te Ching says, I think it was the Tao Te Ching, it says, those who know don't know. Wait, those who know that they don't know. In other words, more and more veils will be put before you. The lifting of the veil, that first veil is just the first veil. You're going to continue to have experiences, aha moments, some profound, some minor, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that anymore. Um, but to, I guess with the person who sent me this, they were probably making reference to what we call the awakening phenomenon that's happening around the world. Is there an awakening phenomenon? You know, actually, we need to create a new word, guys. It's gotten to the point, it's become such a global phenomenon that it's hitting the mainstream. And now everyone's using that term woke. When it hits the mainstream, it's like, okay, now it's going to be corporatized and organized, and it's no longer spontaneous. Now it's become trendy. But the awakening has been going on for quite a while now. I mean, it started in the 60s, and during let's say, the early 2000s, we saw a great, huge, expansion of consciousness. Many of us got, we can probably thank the internet, YouTube, Facebook, MySpace, for all of that, where we were connecting and we were finally like, oh, you're having vivid psychic dreams or prophetic dreams, so am I. So we were finally able to communicate with each other about what we were going through spiritually. So it felt like we were all going through this intense awakening. Now it's gotten a little mainstream. So we want to stay genuine. Let's stay genuine with our awakening. But yeah, it just keeps going. Yes, MySpace. Remember, Treva? We used to play on MySpace together 10 years ago. Excuse me. So, back to the answer. Awakening is a removing of the veil, and it will continue throughout your entire life. Hopefully. All right, we got about 3 more minutes on this. Let's see if there's a short answer I can. Okay, maybe I can do this one real quick. Someone's asking me personally, can I share what practice or practices I was involved with prior to my awakening? Hey, that's a really good question. Prior to my awakening, I was, as Ram Dass says, a spiritual dilettante. Picking a little bit in the buffet of practices. Yes, I went through formal training back in the 90s. I went through formal training in high magic, formal training in the Temple of Isis and the initiation process. I went through formal Reiki training, became a Reiki master. I even went to the Landmark Forum, which is, I forgot what they call it. It used to be another name. But I did all the trainings. I did all the certifications. And it was very interesting. For me, my awakening was when I let go of all of that. I had lost a little bit of my faith. And it was in letting go of my faith that my big aha moment happened. I'll be back right after this message.
You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio. And now we return you to your host.
And welcome back to the Just Bernard Show here on Revolution Radio at revolution.radio and freedomslips.com. As you heard, we are the #1 listener-supported radio station in the world. So head on over to freedomslips.com and click on that little donate button. Give a small donation, a big donation. Keep all these wonderful programs on the air. We have 2 studios, Studio A and Studio B. We run 24/7. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, around the world, sharing some massive information. As well, if you are enjoying my work, if you enjoy my work here on Revolution Radio, or on YouTube, or on my website, or on Facebook, or locally with all the events and whatnot that I produce, please think about becoming a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $2 a month. Like I said, patrons that give $5 or more do have access to that wonderful workshop of how to communicate with your higher self and your spirit guides. But even for $2, you will get access to my book, an online version of my book, as well as other patron-only gifts and rewards. So head on over to patreon.com/Bernard Alvarez. Speaking of wonderful programs, I wanted to take this opportunity to remind myself and remind you I will not be here next week. Next week is my birthday week. I can't believe it's already my birthday again. And it just so happens that I have a doctor's appointment at the time of this radio show next week. You know how it is. You get a doctor appointment, you can't change it. But the week after, on July 3rd, I have got a fantastic guest coming to join us here on the show live. John DeSouza is going to be joining us. I believe he used to work for the FBI and working with UFO information, the paranormal and whatnot. So he's a former government official coming to share some of the information that perhaps they didn't want us to know. But anyway, I'm really not sure. I haven't gotten all the details yet. We just booked the show recently. But that'll be July 3rd. I've got John DeSouza coming on the show, and that'll be fantastic. Anyway, so before the break, I figured I better finish my thought process, because I was saying how someone had asked, what are some of the practices that I did before my quote-unquote awakening? And right when the commercial hit, I said that it was when I lost my faith that I had my big awakening. Yes, I did all the certifications. I went through all the initiation processes and the degrees and this and that. And, I've got all the diplomas and everything. That's wonderful. But it wasn't until I kind of lost faith. It was kind of like, well, I'm not feeling different, or things aren't changing. And actually, during that time, Hurricane Wilma had hit South Florida. I lost everything. I'm like, Jesus. And I let go of everything, and then suddenly, that was the big aha moment. It was the most difficult, painful part of my life, but it was the most amazing sensation to let go of everything. It was when I let go of everything. I literally let go of all of my personal possessions. I started from scratch again about 7 or 8 years ago. I left it all behind. I left my material world. I left my material certifications behind. It was like, whatever, this doesn't mean anything. And it wasn't until then that, then I had the big awakening. I started seeing more through the veil, more through how we allow media to manipulate us, how we allow government to manipulate us, how we allow religion to manipulate us, how we even allow, whether even paganism or Buddhism or whatever. There is no one right way and no one wrong way. They're all right and they're all wrong. It is about us becoming authentic, and that's when it hit me. This path to awakening is about peeling away the layers to find our authentic self. And every day I work toward that, and I suggest that we all work through that. If we can all work toward that as a society, we will see great changes in the future, no matter how difficult things are right now. And speaking of which, I did get a question about current events. Let me see. I hope it didn't disappear. Yay, there it is. Okay. A local friend. Hello. I don't know if you want me to say your name on the air, so I'm just going to say hi, G. And someone asked, geez, and it's like right in the way of the camera, so I can't read it correctly. Okay. How can I shield myself from the intense sadness I feel about the children at the border and other things like that? That's a very good question. And very profound and very difficult to answer, quite honestly. My immediate reaction, or my gut immediately says, we don't want to shield ourselves. Feeling sadness, feeling pain, or whatever it is that we're feeling from that is an emotional response to a tragic situation. It's letting you know you're human. That part's okay. It's what we do with that. It's about how do we process this. I don't know if we want to shield ourselves, but we do want to perhaps create a healthy, energetic filter, for lack of a better term. So immediately what I say, if we want to, everybody wants the immediate easy fix. The easy fix is to go on a media fast, stop, You know what's happening. You know how you feel about it. You don't need to see it and read it over and over every day. Acknowledge it, sense how you feel about it, and then decide. Again, it's back to what I was saying earlier at the beginning of how do we stop being taken advantage of. Our emotions can take advantage of us. So here we are. We're dealing with a very horrible and tragic situation on the planet. We feel a reaction to it. We feel sadness. We feel heartbroken. But how are we going to A, change it, and B, can we change it, and C, is it feasible for you to change it? And what I mean by that, again, going back to that idea of being taken advantage of having that water pitcher filled to the rim, do you have the energy to put into it to change it? Can you spare the energy, whether it be the emotional energy, the mental energy, or the spiritual energy to change it? So immediately, my way of dealing with it, I can only share with you what I've been doing myself, is I've kind of been tiptoeing around it. Yeah, I immersed myself in it. I felt it. I see it. I watched a video or two of it. But I'm done. I'm not going to watch any more videos about it. I'm not going to watch the news that keeps talking about it over and over and over and over again. I'm not going to get involved in the debates on social media about, oh, well, it's been going on and they're illegal, blah, 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 blah. Whatever. You can't change people's minds. You can only change the way you react to people. So again, media fast. Just turn it off. Turn it off. Scroll on by. SOB. Scroll on by. And then the next thing is we want to ask ourselves, do I have anything to offer the situation? Just your emotion alone is sending energy ripples out. Now, do you want to take it to the next level? I know I'm going to be. I have summer solstice is coming up, by the way, and this is just perfect timing. Summer solstice is coming up. On the summer solstice, I am going to be raising my energy, and I'm going to be directing it out to heal the situation. To heal the situation that is best for all involved, harming none. So you can send Reiki, you can light a candle, you can do a prayer, or if you have the energy and the strength, you can literally go down there and help one-on-one. But it's about being realistic. And I don't want to sound cliche by saying, the Serenity Prayer has a lot to offer, and I use it quite a bit. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. You can alter the word to Goddess or Buddha or Allah, but the reality of it is we want to have the clarity of what can we do about it, and what am I willing to do about it, and is this something I need to really be a part of? I hope that helps a little bit, but just know you're not responsible in healing the situation as an individual. It's not your responsibility as an individual to fix it. If it's making you feel bad, step away for a little while. Take care of yourself first. Take a little R&R, refill, re-energize, and then tackle it in the best way that you can. Oh, good. I hope that helped. I see you. Good. Hi, Kelly. Hola. Okay, this goes very well with what we're talking about. I got another interesting question here. This kind of makes me laugh. When is it time to apply what you've learned in all aspects of your life? That's a very big question. When is it time to apply everything that I've learned? Now. It's kind of a silly question, but there are no silly questions, so I don't understand maybe the subtleties that was referenced in that. But every lesson we go through is exactly that, a lesson. There's a lesson in our sadness. There's a lesson in our emotions and in our energetic connections with other people. There are lessons, whether they be spiritual downloads or, that Reiki masterclass that you took. Apply it now. Now is the time to apply all that you've learned. The trick and I still have to go through this quite a bit. The trick is remembering what you learned. Remember, how many times have you had a situation, you talk to a friend about it, and they're like, well, why don't you do this, this, and this? And you're like, you know what? I knew that. I already knew that. So it's about applying what we know in practice and remembering to practice that. Meditation. Sometimes I got to remember to breathe when I meditate. I should know to take 5 deep breaths. That's the way I do my meditation. I'm just saying as an example. I should know to take a few deep breaths before I start trying to calm my thoughts down and go into meditation. When do we apply all the things we learn now? It's again, but give yourself a break if you don't remember. I'm going to go back a little bit because someone's asking about shielding and protection, and that's a good question. And by the way, I believe either this week or coming up in the next day or two, there is a post on creating a psychic shield that is coming up on my feed, on my Facebook feed. But you can always go to my YouTube channel, or you can go to my website. It's how to create a psychic shield if you want to go through it. It's a little 5-10 minute class that I did. So if you want to know more about psychic shielding, go to BernardAlvarez.com or go to YouTube.com/JustBernard and look up how to create a psychic shield. The difference between shielding and protection, that's a very subtle, I really don't see a difference in that, to answer your question honestly. I believe shielding and protection are doing the same thing. Perhaps you can calibrate the difference of how that shielding goes on or that protection goes on. I feel if I were to get down to the minutia or the metaphysics of it, that each different word has a specific vibrational frequency, whereas shielding is kind of like, putting up an umbrella to cover yourself from the rain, but protection is more like the umbrella not only covers you, but it's blowing the water off the umbrella. It's more, aggressive, more assertive. So the vibration's a little bit different. You know what I mean? Protection seems more defensive, where shielding feels more offensive. But that's really, to me, they're kind of the same. It's just a matter of the dynamic and perhaps the intention behind them. But again, if you want, there is a video class available called "How to Create a Psychic Shield." It's an great old standby. I hope that kind of answered that. How much time do we have left? Good. Okay. I think I've touched on that. I probably have touched on this before, but again, this question seems to be coming up. It just came up yesterday with a client. What's my life's purpose? How do I restore my life's purpose? For me, the purpose of, I'm going to share with you, and I've shared this before. When I took the EST, that's what it's called, EST landmark training. They said that the meaning of life has no meaning, and the fact it has no meaning has no meaning. So think about that. The meaning of life has no meaning, and the fact that it has no meaning has no meaning. It's like a koan, Eastern philosophical koan. So this idea of life's purpose, it depends on how deep you want to go down that particular rabbit hole, as far as I'm concerned. Your life's purpose might be to, on the egotistical level, on the ego level, on the material level, your life's purpose might be to be a great mother, to be a great CEO, whatever it might be. But to me, that's kind of a life path, life choice. And that's what I mean about the ego level. How deep do you want to go down the rabbit hole with your life's purpose? For me, to restore your life's purpose is to first have that dialogue with your higher self. To first have that understanding of why you incarnated at this particular time in Earth's history. What is are you here in service to others? Are you here in service to your own spiritual path and growth? So, in order to restore life's purpose, it's all about restoring that communication with our spirit, with our higher self, with our source consciousness, whatever you want to call it, and then moving out of that center. I talk about it a lot where and actually I think there's a meme floating around of one of my quotes that the only thing you must do in this lifetime is to reestablish communication with your higher self and live from that. And that is everyone's step one. That's only step one. That's literally only step one. Everything else is distraction. Everything else is noise. Everything else is ego patting itself on the back or stabbing itself in the back. It's either one or the other. But when we are finally connected to spirit, when we are finally working from spirit, and not only working from spirit, but being, again, going back to the very beginning about trusting our intuition. When we can trust our intuition and we begin to live from our heart space versus our head space, then we begin to do some real work. Then the purpose becomes fulfilling versus going through the motions. You understand what I mean by that? For example, I was lucky enough during my shamanic vision quest, when I met my guides, and my guide said, and I've told the story 1,000 times, please go back to an old broadcast where I talk about it, but basically I was in that, the light, and I didn't want to come back from the light, the light we all go to, and I'm like, oh, it's beautiful here, I feel connected, I feel one with everything, and my guides are like, no, you need to go back so you can teach people, or kind of point the way back to source consciousness. However that might play out, using different words or symbolisms or whatnot. But again, I knew at that point that was my purpose, was to teach and hopefully raise some consciousness and to hopefully offer some tools, tips, or techniques to help us reestablish that communication with higher self and with our source consciousness so we can live authentically and we can be authentic. And when we're authentic, we're happy. When you're not living in cognitive dissonance, doing something you know is wrong, but doing it because you're supposed to, there's no more of that inner conflict. There's no more of that inner drama. Being authentic, being true to oneself, being true to one's spirit is life's purpose as far as I'm concerned. Now, does that take you? Your intuition may tell you that once you've been connected with your authentic self, once you've been connected with your source consciousness, that you're supposed to go to, the Sudan and start digging wells for the villagers. Maybe that'll be your life's purpose. It could be to become an activist, to be a consciousness activist like I am, trying to wake people up and remind them that we have consciousness and elevate the awareness of humanity. It could be to become a non-GMO activist and, promote organic foods or take down, stop the chemtrails or whatever it is. You might be drawn to take action differently than I am or somebody else has. But the first step is knowing what that is. And that comes from being authentic and trusting our intuition. What is your life's purpose? Your life's purpose is to know yourself and then trusting yourself to guide you in what it is that you need to do in this time, in this place, during humanity's history. There's a lot going on, and it's no coincidence that you're here at this time. It's no coincidence. Whether you're 20, 40, or 60, these experiences that you've had during this lifetime have brought us all to this place right here, right now. Think about that. Every little ripple, every action created a reaction that created another action that led you to this place, to this time, and to this awareness. So, again, let's go back to utilizing all that we've learned. Let's utilize all that we've learned and get to know ourselves and help help make the world a better place. So I hope that answers how do I restore my life's purpose. That was a little long one. We took a few little detours there. Oh, great. Let's get a little bit, let's put this into application. Let's apply this now. The question is, how do I rein in my focus? I struggle to center my thoughts. Thank you. So do I. So does everybody. That's ego. It's our little tool. Ego, wonderful servant, terrible master. It's chattering constantly. Look here, look here, look at this. Pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. Meanwhile, our spirit just wants quiet. Our spirit just wants to focus and feel at peace, and draw our next action from that place of quiet, of centeredness. How do we draw in our focus? How can we bring back our focus? One, turn off the TV. Turn off the TV. And I know I've been saying this for 20 years. Turn off Hulu. Turn off MSNBC. Step away from the screen. Step away from Facebook. Step away from this broadcast when it's over. Step away. Stop being distracted. When I'm doing work, I need complete silence, and I don't need it like a diva. I need it because I am that distracted. If I hear noise, I hear TV, I hear radio, even music distracts me, because then the music evokes memories, and I start, becoming nostalgic, and it's like, okay, well, wait a second, back here to now. I need to have that quiet. How do we rein in our focus? Stop allowing yourself to be distracted. Become vigilant as to what you expose your senses to. Yes, I say this over and over and over again. Does it feel uncomfortable? I know so many people that you put them in a quiet room, they start sweating. They start freaking out. You take away their screens, they start freaking out. And that's not to say that technology is evil or bad or anything. I don't believe it's evil. I think it's great. I mean, I get to talk to you here. I get to talk to people around the world all the time. I think technology is wonderful. How we use it, how it uses us, that is where the issues come. Start being aware of what you expose your senses to. Are you constantly focused on a TV show? Are you constantly focused on an MP3, a song, whatever, music, a special band? And does that music constantly pull you back into, thoughts of the party last week or last year or last decade? What is pulling you? Be aware of what's pulling you away from this moment. And yeah, that's very cliche, but it's cliche because it's true. Be here now, be here now, be here now, be here now. But be aware of why you're not here now. There's nothing wrong with the versions. I love my Netflix. I love my Hulu. There's nothing wrong with the versions, but knowing how to rein it in, how to reel it in, to rein in your focus, to learn how to quiet your thoughts, that is the magic right there. So many of us we talk about intentions and magic. You got to rein in your focus first. So start being aware of what you're exposing your senses to. What are you looking at? What are you going to look at after I'm done talking to you today? Are you going to react to something that's around you? Or are you going to choose to not look at anything and just maybe contemplate for a minute about what you want to do next? Are you going to chase something? Or are you going to take a moment, relax, and say, this is what I want to do versus what I have to do? Think about that. Anyway, we are just about out of time, guys. Can you believe it? I love these talks with you guys, and I see if I miss any of your questions, I'm so sorry. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you can see my kitten. My new kitten's here. Hey, I'm gonna wake her up. Say hi to Luna. This is my little Luna. I rescued her last week. Anyway, next week is my birthday. I love you. I won't be here, but we'll be back the following week with John DeSouza. Bye-bye, everybody.